Morning, morning. Hope everyone's having a good day. Happy Sunday or Saturday evening for my friends in the US. Okay, a bit too much orange in the camera, but let's leave it for now. No. Let me know if you can see and hear me properly in the stream. It seems like everything's going well. YouTube is not giving me any errors and my audio levels seem okay. Everything's in the green. Okay, as always, we'll be talking about the recent videos revolving around the topic of keeping your mouth shut, not really expressing your yeses and your nos, basically being politely fake. There's politeness, and then there's just being obsequious and being a people pleaser, wanting to be validated. A lot of the things we know are not healthy. In the moment, we get along, we don't cause waves, but in the long term, you just get used to going on easy autopilot mode, which is just agree with the world. And women are part of the world. If you want to have social interactions, just fake it to get along. And that's what I've been talking about in the last few videos. And there've been quite a few nice and interesting comments. So keep them coming. I'll pop out the chat. So hopefully I'm using a different mic today, a condenser mic. So it's going to pick up a lot of errant sounds. Usually I use this microphone here behind me, which only picks up what's around here. But last week, I spilt like my coffee, I spilt another drink just because the microphone's here and I'm trying to navigate my hands underneath it and things like that. And so I've got a boom mic this time, which is very clear and detailed, but it will pick up cars going by and a lot of stuff like that. So good sound, but too good, if you know what I mean. See? Anyway. Hi to the regulars today. Hey, Boffin, how are you? Peg, Just a Guy, David, how are you? Vero, Sean, Ted, August Lion, Rocket, how are you, dude? Sean, I've already said Sean, didn't I? Feral Android. Anyway, let's get to it. As always, if you want to ask me a question during the stream, put three bright colored circles before your question, like this. I'll post it up. All right. So, like, it should pop up any second now because there's I think there's a 15-second delay or something like that. So, like that here. See? Where is it? Right there. Put 3 yellow circles next to a question if you want to direct it to me, or save it towards the end of the stream and I'll just go through and answer a lot of Q&As. Or if you really want to ask me during the stream something that's important, just super chat it. So let's get the show on the road. So the title of today's stream is your relationship just a polite act? And again, the reason why I give romantic relationships always as an example, as a metaphor, is that it's one of the sharpest things that if we can be ourselves and get those things right and not go on autopilot where they're dysfunctional, where we can get those right, everything else socially and the way we interact with the world becomes a lot easier. So, I could talk about like how to talk with friends, but you don't have as much skin in the game as, you and Chicky Poo in front of you, and men and women are very different. There's just a lot of hurdles and speed bumps there. If you can get that right, then a lot becomes easier because friends and family, pedestrians on the street, you can kind of get by with a please and thank you. You can have a bunch of memes stored in your head just to spit out for these people that you drive by and say, thank you, excuse me, hello, good day, blah, blah, blah. But you have to really be present, and you run out of memes if you're with Chicky Poo. Some friends still operate on memes. I have some high school buddies that the conversations are just meme after meme after meme. And look, there's the life friendship of like high school friends, and they'll be my friends for life, and I don't mind. There's a lot of nostalgia. We talk in memes, we talk about the good old days, and it's a lot of fun. It's like looking at old photo albums, and there's a bit of respect, and that stuff is those friendships. Those friendships are tied to the past. We lubricate them with meetings now, and it's nice talking about the past and things like that. As long as you're not living in the past. But I'd say that if you're in a intimate, romantic relationship, if you're trying to sort of be with the kind of guys who want long term, you can't have memes. You can't. The fuel of memes does not last that long. Like, and even if you're not compatible in personality, after a while, your significant other's going to have heard your opinions on most things. You'll start repeating yourself. If they're only impressed by your memes after a while, and if they don't like you or respect you or love you, then after a while, you're going to be repeating yourself a lot. I know I do. And so if my partner doesn't love and appreciate me, then after a while, it's like, yeah, I've heard that story before. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is getting old. So I think that a lot of us tend to be on autopilot, me included, the way you are at a job. And a job requires you and doesn't want any more from you, doesn't want the real you. They want the formalized person that is skilled in the thing they're employing you for. Fine. You could say also a girl wants you in the thing you're skilled in, the way she employed you for the boyfriend she thought you were at the start, which you may as well just be yourself and not try and impress her, because you can't keep up that act. The memes will run out. You will have said everything you said, and after the honeymoon period, the fun's gone. And if she doesn't like you, then can you blame anyone for moving on? I mean, it's your life. You wouldn't stay with the girl where she's a one-trick pony of you liked her just for her body, but you really don't like being around her. You're embarrassed when you take her to barbecues, and you don't want your family and friends to meet her. I think that's why a lot of guys feel comfortable just hooking up, because you have the security of, well, no one's ever going to meet her. She's not going to be part of my private life. I can lead a double life. She's good for one thing, and she's probably thinking the same about you. But at the same time, I'm not built in a way to manage different lives at the same time. When I hang out here on the streams and on Discord, I can't perform, as was the topic of these recent videos, these last week. I just feel like I enjoy life more when I'm not performing. The more I have to mute the me that's interested in the ideas we're talking about, because I have to be polite, because I don't want to hurt someone's feelings, because at the workplace, HR is going to fire me if I give my honest opinion, even if they're asking for my opinion. I can't remember count the amount of times in boardroom meetings where we talk about work, but then all of a sudden people were trying to sort of be friendly and have, sort of have a bit of office culture and banter, and people are telling their opinions, and then I stop myself, because I know if I'm going to tell my opinion, it's going to be like a record scratching. Everything's going to go silent, and everyone's going to look at me and say, what? Even though I don't think my opinions are anything to sort of be frowned upon. It's just like, I don't think the way you think. Whoa, clouds overhead. So do you present a polite and formal version of yourself mostly just to get by with people? One that's been scared into you, maybe from childhood, parents' expectations, worried about what you're going to do, what your career is going to be. So you formalize yourself for safety, for structure, and not to lose your social circle, your family's respect. I mean, especially when you're a young adult, like who would discard and sever a family that they respect and love, especially if all of them are reading from the same Bible. Like in a figurative way, you and your family, if you love your family, you've grown up with them, you learn to walk and talk like your family, and you respect that, and that's who you are, and and that's the way you move and speak to a large degree. When you go off in the world, you start to develop your own little idiosyncrasies. I found that I've drifted further and further away from the way my family speaks and thinks and believes in their virtues. Maybe a bit of my rebellious nature, because I was an only child for 9 years of my life. I was the firstborn, and I was an only child for 9 years. Maybe there's a bit of that. So, but yeah, how much of our lives are formalized? Mr. Highway actually wrote a nice comment. He says, I can't do the typical meetups with people where the whole interaction is scripted. If there is a script to follow, then you are acting. It's draining, and the people I'm around can sense that I don't fit in. It just takes too much energy for me to be fake. I'd rather enjoy my own company. Yeah. And like, it's very easy online for us to completely say, I'm going to be completely myself and I don't need anyone. See, like it or not, I think we look for binary solutions. All women are this, all guys are this. I want this completely and I don't want that. You can't, anything in excess ruins you. It does. Last night, I ate like a pig, and today I feel like crap. So you really, I think as guys, when we had this tendency, we want to work things out, and there's nothing wrong with it. But life pushes out. When we push things to have a binary perfect answer, like I'm going to get myself perfect. Because of time, things decay, things change. You know, you mow your lawn, the grass grows. Like nothing stays perfect. Life is just maintenance. It's always moving. The trick with relationships and women is that promises people make when they say, I am not going to move. I am not going to change. And I think people need to have, in relationships, you have to keep communicating and making sure you're on the same page, developing trust over time, and knowing why you're together, that you keep your present moment moving forward through time. That's kind of the key to being realistic about staying with someone. The best chance of it working, for instance, and not just being blindsided by one or both of you not communicating, not being compatible. And then it just kind of gets too much for one person, and then it's over. And it's like, I never saw it coming. It's like, well, the more you talk to the person, it's like they weren't compatible. They had problems from the start. They never communicated. They were never into the same things. She was black. He was white. He was up. She was down. She was left. He was right. She was outgoing. He was an introvert. In my case, in the past, she was a big traveler. I'm a homebody. And then you sort of say, oh, women. It's like, nah, it's not. It's you thinking that it's all women, and then there's the convenient excuse later because you can't be bothered talking. You accept that, like, I'm going to have my private life here, and she's going to have her private single life as well, but we promise not to sleep with anyone, and we've got no common interests, and we don't speak to each other. Anyway, I asked the poll question. I asked a poll, have a look in my community section. YouTube has changed the tabs. They've redone the UI on YouTube. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the thumbnails with the rounded corners and one less thumbnail going across the screen, but hey, That's the way it is. But in the community section, I posed a question. And the question I posed was, I think that when we just go through the motions in our private lives, whether it's with family, love, or our routines, I think that we could often just be playing comfortable roles that may not work for us anymore. What do you think? And there were a number of fairly good, interesting comments. I encourage you to read them in the comments section and give your own as well as maybe comment under here. But it'd be interesting to have them in one place. Then guys know where to find them, and so do I. And there's nothing wrong with knowing how to act in a certain situation as long as you're present there in real time, using the words you're coming up with the way I'm doing it now. I'm not spitting out rehearsed memes. At best, I'm spitting out rehearsed language because the English language is what it is, but I'm trying to construct different sentences to best describe what I'm feeling now and the conversation I'm having now. So I think in a lot of ways, we just go on blind, lazy autopilot. We're sleepwalking through our conversations. We sleepwalk through interactions with people. And this is what all the memes are online. I talk to a lot of guys and they just spit meme after meme after meme, and they try and keep a conversation going via memes, and then they can't. And I think the way I speak in real time. Fair enough, like, because I have a history with writing. I love writing and thought and introspection, and I write a lot. And so I've kind of lexically got that coming out of me. And I think maybe some people find it intimidating because of my vocabulary, maybe. And I'm not saying I'm better or worse than any of you. But I think some of those guys that only have memes don't just know how to talk to me plainly. You know, I may use $100 words here and there, but I think what is intimidating, I found even when I was on dates with girls, is that this guy, there's something about him that he's switched on in this moment, and he's interested, he's listening, he's asking questions, he wants to know. There's not the comfort of, okay, we can just formally go on a date and act and perform in front of each other and give our best performance as a potential boyfriend or our best performance as a potential girlfriend. And I think that's the intimidation, objectively speaking, what I might have. I think in the intimidation, as far as I can tell with people I talk to or when I used to go on dates, is that this guy is here. This guy is listening and asking questions and talking. So, yeah, I noticed it in conversations as well. It's just a lot of us, and I was this way too, trying to figure out life in private, in my notebook, storing very clever ideas and never being able to implement them because I never speak them. I never had the courage to speak them. Yeah, Ted1775, the comment, she's not yours, it's just your turn. That's a really astute observation in a lot of times, but guys just repeat it as though they sort of they want a pat on the back, and everyone's going to be like giving them 50 likes under their comment because everyone likes that comment, or maybe one or two guys haven't heard it and they think, wow, that guy's brilliant. It's like, well, that guy didn't say that. Yeah, Rocket says, I've always thought females treat dating too much like shopping. Most women do. The Dave Chappelle said it best. He said, women's challenge is life is material, and men's challenge in life is a woman. So I think women by default operate in shopping mode. With regard to my poll question here, T-Dog actually came up with a really good a comment. He said, the motions in this context are distinguishable from habits that contribute to our contentment. They are more about what we're hiding and why. A lack of insight, courage, or even vulnerability rarely leads to any sort of fulfillment. It's really well put. And in terms of this video, I think it was Mr. Highway says, oh no, actually we already read that out. In terms of this question that I posed, Ohio Dan said, my thinking is basically that we often go through life in such an ad hoc fashion, plugging holes and trying to satisfy short-term needs, that some of our activities were never really optimal in the first place. And then that immediate situation changes and we're stuck with a system in place that has outlived its purpose. If we can't shift to something else, this is really, really interesting. And I think I've mentioned this in a different way. Thank you, Savvy, for the super chat. I really appreciate it, man. Savvy says, us men get to a point we simply can no longer imagine a lady in our lives. Ladies are great and all, but they do wear on us. Yeah, if you're always feeling awful around women, no matter how nice you try and be and how accommodating, how balanced, how fair, if the feeling after dating constantly is negative, bad, you feel ashamed, you did something wrong, they're happy and seemingly confident it's always your fault. If you're always doing the wrong thing, logically, you're no good at it. That's what you think, or I've had enough, or I'm worn out, or I don't want to feel bad anymore. I don't want to disappoint a woman anymore. Like, I'm just awful at this. How many times would you go and play tennis while everyone else is having a good time and no one wants to play with you, and you never get picked? Like, after a while, you might love tennis, but there comes a point in time you're worn out, and the reaction from all of tennis pros and people who are enjoying it is like, we don't want to play with this guy. It's like, then, like, you don't want to impose yourself if you're self-aware. Do you know what I mean? And guys just get worn out, and women say, oh no, you're great. Don't stop trying. Oh, well, F off, will you? It's like all of you react the same way. All of you want the same things, and I'm that guy who no one wants to pick, can't play tennis. The club is politely just accommodating me, but I get nothing out of it. And I just keep paying and showing up. Like, let's do both of us a favor, and I'll pick something else. Schlitz Maltzlicker, thank you for the super chat. He says, greetings from beautiful Northeast Florida. How are you? Hopefully the weather is stable and sunny, but I know that Florida can be temperamental, just like here, how it's been recently in Melbourne. Yeah, this poll that I put down had some interesting, which was related to the last video I did, about performing your way through everything, especially performing your way, which I think in a relationship, an intimate relationship, a romantic, whatever you want to call it, you want one person, a monogamous long-term relationship with someone, is the one place you should not have to perform. If I have to insist on something as, you want to call it a rule, this is my rule, is that if I know there's formality in different parts of life, I have to formalize myself in some way at work. You go to a wedding, a funeral, with friends to a lesser degree, things like that, depending on the friends. Some friends you can be more yourself, some friends others. I know I've got some friends where I can't talk this way. They've got no interest in philosophy. They don't introspect in life at all. They're very relaxed guys. They're just not interested in it. I can go to some friends for something, some friends for something else. I know you have to formalize yourself, but I think if you're picking that one person to be around for the most amount of time, you have to pick someone where you're around them as comfortably as you are yourself. You really, really do. Because then you're hiding again. A lot of guys live, as the quote goes, live in quiet desperation in a loveless relationship, with a woman they can't trust. Yeah. We know this. But yeah, a lot of guys have found themselves in a situation that the 20-year-old then picked for themselves, unfortunately. And, what can you do? I think you have to sort of be stubbornly very self-preserving. Oscar left a comment and says, comfort feels like solid ground underfoot, and to step outside the container would we know feels like quicksand. Insecurity in both areas. There's insecurity in being within your group, but it's sort of safe stagnation, or it's kind of the feeling I felt as I felt the MGTOW corner of male self-help changing very rapidly over the course of like a year or two. It started to become more like pickup, and the guys coming in weren't interested in thinking and philosophy and introspection and stoicism and really trying to go your way. They were, and I don't know if it's a generational thing. People are just treating life as a video game. They treat dating as a video game because you do this when you date these days. Where is my phone? Okay. Let me put it on silent. Yeah, people are socializing like this. They play video games like this. They get their validation like this. They work through this now. They order food through this. They navigate, like check the radar for traffic, for everything. Like, this is your thinking. This is your best friend. This is your ethics, your morals. The news comes on here and tells you how to think. You don't have to think. You have a question, you don't ask people, oh, what do you think of this? You just ask Google, your friend, what do you think of this? You don't ask Joe, oh, what do you think is the answer to blah, blah, blah? Or what's that word? It's like, Google, my friend, my computer, you know what I mean? And then you're used to this mode, this quiet, placid friend that never judges you, or not directly, but indirectly it does, but never judges you, quiet, tranquil, entertains you, makes you feel good, gives you dopamine buzzes, all that sort of stuff. And how do you take this mode of relating to the world and now intimately, how do you take that to, okay, I'm going to meet this person? You get really nervous because it's like, this is a different mode. How the heck am I supposed to act as a flesh and blood person across from Chicky Poo with a coffee? This is really weird. Can we just, and I think that's why a lot of couples, even if they do end up dating, you see them across the table and they're just like this. I've been out with friends, and you look at couples, and for the whole sit down of their coffee or breakfast or whatever, they're like this. They barely look at each other. They're just like, yeah. They look at the waitress more than they look at their partner. And then men, women, it's like, no, men, women, it's not, you don't have an empirical understanding or even a desire to want to know what your man or woman is like, which is all that matters. Anyway, August Lyon left a really great comment under this poll. He said, personally, I'm a creature of habit and love my routine. However, it took me many years, plus the freedom of being single, in order to design the routine that works for me. This sounds like me. A lot of you guys who leave great comments, I think I call them great comments because you guys sound like you think and have lives that are similar to mine. August Lyon continues. He says, making major life changes causes me a great deal of anxiety. Me too. After spending the majority of my life going through the motions with little emotional investment, I decided that stepping outside of my comfort zone and quitting my long-term job was a necessary step for growth. Again, it's like we had similar experiences. I did that in my early 40s as well. I basically grabbed my life and, like a vase, I just smashed it on the floor because my world was in black and white. I had everything, but I was just not miserable. I don't want to bemoan like first world problems, but my world was in black and white. You know, I'd rather have fewer things that objectively everyone can applaud me for. I'd rather have like one or two things that I can applaud myself for, and I don't care what other people think. He continues. It was very painful at first, but I'm now in a much better place in my life. I certainly can't guarantee that taking such a great chance will pay off like it did for me, but the one regret I didn't want to carry anymore was the fear of trying for something better. Whether with success or failure, I had to try. I think too many men fear losing something that they really don't even want in the first place. Yeah. I think what it is also is it's like I've got a known quantity and I just kind of, it doesn't fit, but it's better than nothing. Like say, for instance, you've got a home that you really want to move and there's just a lot of fear about moving and can you afford it and what'll happen and blah, blah, blah. But it's comfortable. And when everything starts to feel like Maslow's low-level needs, you've got a problem. You have to be very aware and conscious and maybe even have to write on paper as like the pros and cons and really realize that the things you're fearing aren't Maslow's low level, they're above it. So you should risk them if your life doesn't feel like it should. If there's a lot of things that you'd wish you would do or you've been wanting to do for a long time, but procrastination, fear, or laziness has kept you from it. If it's not low-level Maslow's, like food, shelter, and all that sort of like necessary survival, I would encourage most guys to lean in the direction, if not pull the trigger on doing what they know they should do. August Lyon's comment on what the decision he made to change his life drastically for the better, it was similar to mine. Like he says, there's no guarantee it's going to work out, but if you get to the point where you find it hard to breathe in your own life, I think it's almost guaranteed, if you're our kind of people, that you have to do it. You know, the reality of what you want, how you feel, and what feels right and true to you, where your life doesn't fit, you have to do it. You just have to. It's not that everyone has to, but I think you come to a point where you have no choice. Otherwise, it's just going to be worse and worse, and you're going to suffocate more and more. Hombre no Yardo says, comfort zone. How often does that actually work or end well? And I actually said the comfort zone works. It does work, but it often ends in a lot of regret, waste of time, pain. And if you had your time over again, a lot of people said, I should have done this. I should have taken risks. I should have taken this chance, that chance. And like, we just don't take chances that are just handed to us on a silver platter because of comfort zone. And it's not something that's outside of who we are. It's like it's made for us. It's different from what we have, but it's made for us and we do desire it and it's interesting and it would be great if we have it in our lives, but we're thinking, it's too much of a price to pay because what if something goes wrong? But realistically, it's recoverable. How much of the risks that we don't want to take are recoverable and how much of them really aren't? So I would agree, don't take reckless risks where the chances of it not working out are very high and also they're not recoverable if they don't work out. How many of the risks and changes we want to make are things that would still work or we'd be happy to make those changes, but only if they're guarantees? And if it doesn't work out, would we really be homeless? No, we wouldn't. I, for one, would encourage, not tell you what to do, but I would encourage people to lean in the direction of taking many more honest risks, recoverable honest risks in the direction that really they would really want to go in and get things from. Chris Namaste says, the human tendency to inertia is strong. Yeah, for survival's sake it is. He continues, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. However, when you are served with divorce papers, this is not a good strategy. Yeah, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Sure. That's the difference between someone who just needs a lot of variety and is just going through partners and getting bored in relationships and needs to be entertained like a princess. That's very different to you actually get what you want and you know that fits you and this is great. Like say you've always gotten the car you wanted. You always want it, you bought it, and it's the car you want to have for long term or the rest of your life. That's different. Like you get what you want. There's a comfort zone. You're not just wanting to buy a new car because you're on on shopping mode, as was talked about before. Matricky says, comfort to a degree, but sometimes you stay in these monotonous routines so that you can stay true to your values, such as being there for your kids. That's different. That's responsibility. If you've promised responsibility to your kids and to sort of a promise, and then even if you want to break it, you've got, like, if it's between adults, you have a conversation and you're willing to. If you break a contract, there's terms and agreements and whatever. Like, if you both agree to something, there's consequences to breaking the contract. But with kids, yeah, it's kind of like, I don't think anyone would agree that you should abandon your kids there, because that's a biological responsibility most people should have. But I think between couples, communication makes the kind of responsibility and promises and the comfort zone of the promises you made, makes it much easier to navigate those and keep those and change them together or apart. But the betrayal of staying silent and performing through your relationships, and then later on the thing comes crashing down, and then you're looking to blame everyone except yourself, where you know you didn't speak up and you realized a lot of things were wrong, but no one said anything, and you hold on to your kids as the only thing, the excuse, well, I'm staying there for my kids, and women will be women, so yeah. Communicate, and don't lie to yourself. Kosei says, are we programmed to be creatures of habit? Are we programmed to be creatures of habit? Seems so. Some habits bring worthwhile rewards, some don't. How do we filter and lean towards the better ones? Being better communicators, speaking what we feel, not censoring ourselves. And I know this world today, especially online, does its best to censor us at every angle. So we learn through this formalized process, and even me through my channel, what I can and can't say, what words I have to bleep out, what's acceptable, what's politically correct. We get conditioned in this language, and we live online so much that when we're out in the real world with friends and real people on dates, we're formalized by this language. And imagine, guys already found it very hard to speak to women before the internet and social media. It was very nerve-wracking, very hard to find a girlfriend, very hard to be yourself. Now it's almost impossible because you're hamstrung so much before. You're conditioned all your life by the politically correct, social media to walk and quack like a duck, that you go on a date and you walk and quack like a duck, and women don't like ducks. And then it's awful. It's like you're like you're a different animal that's taught to be a duck, and you try every way to be a duck before you realize you're not one, and you shouldn't be speaking like one. Musashi, how are you, man? Formerly known as Martial Arts Oriental Medicine. He says, I want to thank you for these 3 good years listening to you and the chats with which TFM, Coltane, Quasimandias, Barbarossa, and I believe Stardust it's served me beyond and gynocentrism way more, so thankful. Well, thanks for tuning in, Musashi. Jordan says, human, good on you for making a big change when you had financial stability. What's your relationship with money like? I don't need much. I work part-time. While I was working full-time, I did the best I could to pay my house off, and I did eventually, but I bought a very cheap, simple home out in the suburbs, something affordable, and I paid it off as quickly as I could. And once it was paid off, I didn't take a loan out I don't really take loans out for anything else. If I don't have the money for it, I don't buy it. The only thing you need to really pay for is utilities and food. That's a thing that kind of stresses me out here and there. But like I'm fairly comfortable, and I save money here and there, and not much, but I know I'm just a very simple kind of guy. People are chasing a lot. I don't chase a lot. I'm not goal oriented. I think a lot of people are. They're target oriented. I can't pretend to be going for a target where my life is miserable. My target is where I am as much as I can. Like, I love drawing and writing. I don't necessarily love having written and having drawn. So in the past, when I used to sort of write a bit more, when I'd finish a short story, it was satisfying in terms of like, I'm done. Like, you can rest. It's the kind of feeling of going to bed once you've produced something, you've been useful. But I'm not a goal oriented person, and I think that's common for creative individuals. There's a quote that I really like. I can't remember who said it. It says that art and literature is an antidote for goal-oriented people. And I think that's certainly apt for me. Okay. Musashi adds, and thank you for the super chat, Musashi. He adds, of course, gender dynamics, we win, it's gonna be okay. I don't know what that means, sorry. Hit the like button, join the channel if you feel like it, guys, and comment, interact. YouTube loves it when you're interacting with my channel any way you want. Give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down, dislike the video if you want. I think just interaction with my channel is all that counts. Feral Android says, how do you date if you just work part-time? I would say do whatever you want to do within your means. If you date and you work part-time, and most women out there are kind of like, loser, you don't have a full-time job, or you're not rich, then again, would you really want that kind of woman? I wouldn't feel comfortable with her in my life. I wouldn't be able to pretend that I can love her or get to loving her. It's a waste of time. We all know what the answers are when we think about them. And sometimes we get a bit too clever and we think, well, they're the only women out there. If they are, and almost all of them are useless to me because they're not compatible to me, then just accept it. That's the way it is. Or change yourself. You know, what is it? The way to be happy is lower your expectations, or what is it? Lower your expectations or be realistic. Something like that. Anyway, it reminds me, I back in a past life when I used to, instead of spending all my time doing YouTube, as a hobby, my main hobby was writing. And I remember I published a piece of writing at one time related to this, related to pretending in relationships. This was about the time where I was really like just writing about men and women relationships, my frustrations with women. And it was about having rose-colored glasses on. And the piece of writing went, there, she says, or should I put on the girl's voice? There, she says, pointing beyond herself. See? I look, I see nothing, though for a while I pretend to. But my charity has no stamina, and after a while I confess. And with that she leaves to find someone else who will lie to her. And I remember that piece of writing, and that I was frustrated with having to lie to keep a girlfriend. Be romantic. Lie. But at the same time, she says, we want guys to be honest, yet romantic, and give us flowers for no reason, and tell us they love us for no reason. It's like, you want me to lie and be honest at the same time. It was maddening. And I think a lot of clarity in life and being able to sleep better and accept a lot of stuff in life and live more tranquilly and have less debt and all that kind of, just live more sensibly, like doing the things I know I should do, and sort of restrain my emotions and my impulses and all that sort of. I know it's hard the younger you are, but anyway. Any questions, guys? Let's wrap up the stream. How long have we been going for? 45 minutes. Let's try and do an hour today. Usually I do an hour and a half or something. Let me have a look at some more comments. Go under the recent video, he said, trust and a secure attachment allows you to relax and be yourself. Insecurities about the relationship, lack of trust, fear of abandonment will keep you in a performance mode. Yes. Manipulative women will reinforce those insecurities to maintain your performance. Think about this statement, right? And how it relates to being in a bad job where your boss and the company makes you perform in the same way. Makes you insecure, you don't trust them, you have a fear you're going to lose your job, and you stay performing, giving 110%. You're going to have a performance review. They keep you there with a bare minimum of paying you, but it's always pushing you to perform. Fear, fear, fear. And manipulative women exhibit similar traits, and they'll reinforce those insecurities to maintain your performance. That was a really astute comment. Alonzo said, my relationship I used to describe as driving Miss Daisy. I was my ex's handmaiden, always under scrutiny because I did most things. I really struggle post-relationship thinking, what did she contribute to our relationship? And I think I responded saying, like, I think that's a huge part of many men's anguish, is that we were compliant servants to our exes, hoping that she could meet us halfway maybe, but she never did. And we kept our mouths shut. We just kept our mouths shut. And that's a lot of our frustration and, talking about women and learning from relationships. It's get to the point where you look in the mirror and take ownership where it was really you. Most of the time it was us, what we let happen and what we're afraid will happen again. But if you really acknowledge, aside from what she actually did and said, that's on her, all the other things I tolerated, the nice guy treatment, giving her another chance, giving her the 126 chances for something that I should have cut off straight away after the first or second chance. How many times is it a mistake before you realize it's a habit or that's part of her personality? And also, say someone, if you need to give someone 127 chances or the threat of in a cataclysmic way, destroying the relationship, leaving her, doing something drastic for her to go, oh, okay, now I'll respect your point of view. Now I'll be fair. Do you really want to be with someone where you have to go to extremes to get to a fair point in a discussion, or as a fair point in a relationship where you can be heard and seen and you can get something back that's fair? No. Luke says, age-old advice is be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Do we ever actually know ourselves, though, especially if we are constantly changing upon self-reflection and introspection? Well, the thing is, if you're constantly aware of you moving in real time and you're not on autopilot, then yeah, you're changing, but you're aware of where you are and you're adjusting yourself and you're being honest with how you've changed and what now doesn't fit you. And you also reinforce it through your language that's always dynamic and present. Again, don't just use sentences from the past because they're just convenient memes because you can't be bothered to think. Believe me, if someone else sitting across you like Chicky-Poo, who's usually a bit more insecure and in more of a survival mode than you are as a guy, most girls are, she's going to be much more in real time thinking about what she's saying because she's more desperate in the moment survival mode way of thinking, rather than a guy who's less concerned and less in survival mode, and he just kind of relaxes and just goes on autopilot of what works and say this, do this, and whatever. So stay conscious and presently aware of how you're speaking and who you are, and reflect it in how you speak. Johnny says, I'm always me, always. Girlfriends adore it in the beginning and then tell me that it exhausts them after a while. I'm laughing because this is me too. A lot of girls find this avalanche very interesting and refreshing, like a roller coaster for a girl that's not used to it. There's so many times I could count. You go on a date, and the girl, you can tell you're having a great time because she's interested in you. But she's interesting because I'm different, not because I'm compatible with her, because I'm not like maybe some of the guys she's used to going out with that are maybe your cookie cutter guys that are, very much gym, success, finance, fast car, 2.5 kids, mortgage, blah, blah, blah. My personality is different. It's sort of like, it's like going on vacation for them. And so, yeah, I can tell they're interested, and so am I. I'm having a good time, and they're present and aware because, wow, look at this holiday I'm on, this holiday of human. When does my passport run out? After the honeymoon, sweetheart. That's when. The Faded Hero says, I think we perform because we love the idea of having our woman. Don't let her see the real you. She might leave, we think. We often fall for the outside and then mold our insides to fit theirs. I don't know where we pick this behavior up, but we need to stop. The physicality just isn't worth the pain of the other 24 hours when it's working, and the pain of losing it all when it doesn't. Yeah, that was a really nice way of describing it. August Lyons responded to Faded Hero. He said, yes, but women will also spend a lot of effort trying to fix you. In other words, try to force you into her mold of what she thinks the ideal man is. Too bad the ideal man in her mind is impossible and full of contradictions. Isn't this interesting? We mold ourselves to fit the woman we want. She's trying to fix us, to force us into her mold as well. So both of us are forcing ourselves into her fantasy. And that's what we think a relationship is. It's, in her eyes, a relationship is hers. In a man's eyes, a relationship is still hers through her as the pretty girl. So all roads point to woman as yes. What do you want? Yes. Her body, yes. If you love me, you'd yes. It's very hard to defy biology in that way by insisting that your prefrontal interrupt and allowing your prefrontal to be your wingman and go, yeah, she's hot, but buddy, let me just whisper in your ear for a moment. Let me just give you food for thought before you jump into that mess. Boffin Grusky, he said, you said something towards the end of the video that I've been thinking a lot about lately. Very little trust in their own empirical experience. This is what I mentioned in my last video. Guys trust very, very little in their own empirical experience. They'll listen to and talk to a lot of guys, and they'll talk about stats and stuff and how all women are. But then when you look in your relationships, very few of your relationships with real women and real people in your life perfectly match these perfect formulas us guys are talking about online, trying to create these perfect utopias. They don't really match. And Boffin continues, he says, too many people have an inclination to seek expert opinion and tend to heavily discount their own lived experience and observations. Think of how this tendency can skew one's understanding of things. Are things really as dark and dysfunctional as some would have you believe? Put in the work and form opinions based on reality. Else, you are simply parroting someone's narrative. Yes. You might, I'm not saying you do or will, but you might listen to me when I'm motivated and energized and talking about something I really believe in, and like my life is really like potently, I'm enjoying it, or I'm experiencing it in a certain way, and I'm kind of letting you have it like this or in a video, because like I'm talking about this stuff in my life and I'm really experiencing, and this is what's important to me. You can kind of like hang on to that and go, yeah, I want to take that ride with that person. Like I'll come along for the ride. But you can't use my narrative if it's not working for you. I can't Tony Robbins myself over you if you don't try and like lean in that direction and experience it yourself, or try it, or converse with your friends that way as well. You need to try and engage the way I am if I'm inspiring you or something else is, or you watch a video of some guy with, financial success and getting that supercar, whatever you want, whatever's inspiring you, it just can't be idea. If you don't take action, you're just leeching. You're just a passenger. You're like, those birds that sit on elephants. That's what you are. There's an elephant online that's really inspirational, and you're that bird that just sits on him. And after a while, you can't survive sitting on him for very long. Me and my metaphors. Nexus says, I've been performing for over 20 years. I don't even know who I am anymore. This is very dangerous. I can sympathize with you on this. You can perform, get by, and after a while, like I said, my world turned to black and white. I didn't even know who I was anymore. It was like if I took away all of the thin patina of success and girlfriend and secure job, if I took it all away, would I really care? And also, would I be grateful that I got rid of that? I would no longer have friends or the girlfriend or whatever who really didn't appreciate me and what I valued? No. Because if you've got everything on paper that everyone else can pat you on the back for, but if it disappeared, all of your friends, your girlfriend, the supportive people in your life, they would leave. And this is this search for meaning that a lot of us guys, and I'm like me, and I'm guessing a lot of you guys who tune into my channel, this search for meaning that all of us are kind of trying to ethically script as our own philosophy, our own moral philosophy in life. This search for meaning is the kind of what makes life feel alive, And it's not like poetic mumbo jumbo. Like a lot of you guys, keep chasing your $1 million and your fast cars and your bimbos who could take it away overnight. Do it. Yeah, good for you. I won't lose a night's sleep. I'm not going to be envious. But if you don't meaningfully love it, if your sleep isn't great, but if you're having to take anxiety medication and things like that, I hate to be the one who said, I told you so. Raphael says, many a false step was made by standing still. That's a really good saying. I am going to highlight that. Many a false step was made by standing still. Any last comments, guys, before I wrap it up? JK says, what is being compatible for you? I'm going to do a video about this, actually. The number one thing I look for, the umbrella of what I looked for always when I was dating, is a kind person. Because kind dominoes into everything else. Kind dominoes into sympathy, fairness, blah, blah, blah. So we can come up with a whole list of things. I want this, I want that, I want that. But what's something that like an umbrella over the whole lot of it? Compatible for me, look, one thing I've always looked for is kindness. A nice person, but just a kind, decent person, objectively kind. Not just subjectively, subjective is my compatibility. So compatibility for me, roughly, more of a homebody, is more into introspective discussion, can have longer discussions, listens. It's not just about them. They've got empathy. They're fair. There's just a whole lot of values that I respect and that I exude as well, and I can't help but exude them because they're me. So a lot of similar traits that I have that I need to plug into someone else with to be able to relate to them. Both physically in my life and my routines, like I said, homebody, my lifestyle, mentally, verbally, like the things I talk about, what I find interesting, or if we're not exactly on the same page, how we discuss, how we're fair about it, how we listen, how we empathize, how we sympathize, our differences between right and wrong, and the distance between those things, just those kind of things. And the longer you spend with someone, you can tell how much more compatible you are. And there's a vast contrast between when you were doing it on autopilot, like I was in my past, just thinking that this person's nice, I'm nice, she's not a loudmouth bimbo, she's intelligent. Ah, I found the one. No, you haven't. The important virtues that you find important aren't there. But generally, I would. I'm going to make a video on this. My number one thing is just a kind person, a kind, decent person. From there, you can find out if you're compatible. So the first step, I would argue, if you're looking for long term, is find a kind, decent person. A lot of that is based on their upbringing and values, which you can ask during the date if you've got half a brain cell and you're interested in them. And we should be interested in asking questions and getting to know them. And if they block you and say, I don't want to talk about that, this feels like an interview, I don't talk about my past, this feels like an interrogation. It's like, okay, fine. Ted1775 says she wants to hear her ideas in your voice. Yes. I think that the late, great Paul Proteus said, women don't care about what you want. She cares about what she wants in a deeper voice. Something like that, he said. Musashi's report says, hello, Feral, Quasimandias, Pete, if here, David, Vero, Lion, Boff, and Karu. Who else? Well, you guys all good people, it seems, and comments here serve me well. Yeah, have a listen to the discussion I had with Pete, Karu, and Boffin on my chat channel. Link to that, it should be in the low bar under this stream. If not, it's in the About section in the tab of my YouTube channel. We had a long, almost 3-hour conversation about maintaining friendships and relationships today. And we just sort of stewed on a lot of that, why it's hard. Some of us older guys having socialized, grown up with friends, riding our bikes, interacting with the real world. I started dating before the internet, before social media, and I saw the change compared to guys now who are brought up with screens in their hands and they date from day one online, Tinder, flicking left and right, having to navigate between fake people, and that's just the way it is. It's almost like, you know how we accept that businesses and banks are a certain way, and that's just the way they are, but we necessarily have to go to banks and put our money there and stuff like that, and we have to kind of make the best of the worst, and we have to protect ourselves from being taken advantage of. That's just the way it seems like a lot of young guys have to date today. Like, all women are banks, and it's kind of like you have to pick the best bank, but you have to operate and be very scrupulous and have a magnifying glass over every bill and every letter and every charge, and rather than trusting the bank's advertising saying, we're great, you know, we care about you. It's all about you. You come first. Our customers come first. It's like, yeah, sure, buddy. Mark says, I think the issues is that the avalanche is fine when they are watching it, but when it turns in their direction, they don't enjoy it as much. Yeah, philosophically speaking, if you expect something from someone, but you don't want to give it, I think you're being philosophically insincere. Or more colloquially, you're being a hypocrite, whether you're a man or a woman. It's very easy for us guys to quite accurately point out women's expectations compared to what they give, which is usually donuts. But also what we want from women, and do we reciprocate something to sort of, you know, play tennis with what we want from a woman. What do we provide back that women want? Yeah, sure. You can't just say women want a billionaire with a six-pack and I haven't got it and it's not in me to get it and there's no way I can get it. I mean, you can, but is it your lifestyle, and do you really want to do it for a female stranger? Or is it realistic to stay within the parameters of who you are, still be a responsible, decent person and find a woman there? So be realistic about what you want and what you're going to give. Too many people and mostly women, just sit there with their arms crossed, thinking that love is a guy gives me a romantic bouquet of flowers and takes me out to dinner and just keeps giving love in this direction to Chicky Poo constantly. It's a one-way street, and that's love. No. Love, if it's going to survive, is a two-way street. It's a tennis match. And the more people get that through their thick heads, that love is a tennis match, love is relating, as Quasimandias would agree, it is the back and forth. In business, you understand you want to make money, you got to spend money. In love, you've got to spend love to get love too. Even if you're a STEM-based kind of person, if you're going to be a mathematical person, you can't just take something out of the environment and give nothing back. You bleed in, you suck it dry. You leave an empty husk. So relationship-wise, you suck the honeymoon period dry, and then it's like left with nothing. And then it's like, well, that person lied to me. Well, that person, I'm not in love anymore. It's like, what did you give? Nothing. But luckily I didn't, because they lied. I don't regret any of my past relationships when I was honestly giving, when I really thought things were reciprocal. I don't regret any of that because it seemed honest to me. What I regret is staying and giving second chances later on when it was going downhill and I was trying to, resuscitate a dead horse. Remember, guys, if you want to ask me a question, add a bunch of emojis next to your question, just like Gigadolph did here. 3 or more bright yellow, orange circles, and so I can see them as questions to me. Christopher says, is a woman who can't be single a sign of emotional damage and low self-esteem? Not necessarily. I'd say it's more of a sign of people pleaser. I had an ex-friend, like a guy who couldn't be alone. He was just a very outgoing, gregarious person that really didn't. He had very little introversion. He was just so social. He didn't like being alone. Could be like an extension of claustrophobia. I don't know what it is. It's probably a lot of childhood. But I think if you find the right person and like you've got another outgoing person, it doesn't. Look, it's a tricky one. If you just swing from person to person, but if you stay with a person and you do your best you can before you break up, and then you can't be alone and you go to the next person, at least while you're in a relationship, if you're doing the right thing and you're being a good person and you're trying your best, and everyone can agree that you're doing the best you can and you're going about it the right way, that's different to a person who, the in-between stages, they don't enjoy or find it hard to be alone. I would say it's good to spend time alone to really find out who you are, because I think a lot of those people who just monkey branch from one relationship to another, really, especially those outgoing people, they really don't have much inside. There's not much of a rich inner world. Much of what makes them people comes from the external. So they need other outgoing people who are into traveling and parties and blah, 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 blah. Which for me, I'm drastically different to that kind of person. I know I'm not compatible to that. But again, if you're not going to self-reflect and realize who you are and what you need, then... So I don't know if that's clear cut. Gigadolph asks, do you feel a power imbalance at the first stage of dating? Like she's holding the goods and you're just applying for a job? I used to, until I just really let go. Letting go for me, really, honestly letting go, not just talking about it, not believing it's the right thing to do, but honestly coming to terms with it. Like someone passes away. Like it happened, it's real. Like you feel it's real. Or you love someone, you're like, it's real. Like, I don't need to explain it to you. Like, I just know it. When I just started to go on dates, not like I was going to meet a fantastic girl that could be the one, but I was going to have a good time with a potential friend. I was going to have a friendly catch up with someone who may, if things go right and enough time, if we decide to see each other again or catch up again, if we're compatible, if we laugh together, if we give the same yeses and nos. I felt less and less I didn't feel a power imbalance. I just felt like I was going to have a good time with a friend. I was going to have a good conversation. And so it was selfishly, I went to the date. It was all about me. It was very, very little about them. And it's very good to honestly ask yourself, when you go on dates, are all your feelings all about them? The validation of them on a date? Or is it just, it's like, this is going to be a lot of fun? It's a difference between, like, say you're about to go on holiday with your buddies, like 5 of you, your best friends, you're getting together, you hired a van, and for this weekend, you're looking forward to surfing. You are looking forward to a great time with your buddies. So they're not the thing, like, you're not supplicating to them, you're supplicating to the experience with them. So it's mainly about you looking forward to that time with them. That's the kind of feeling I had in a male-female, guy-girl way. Like, I was really excited and, from a very natural biological point of view, but that same sort of feeling, rather than the please, I'm lonely, this could be the one. I didn't romanticize it. I really just practically looked forward to, selfishly, just having a good time with this person, having fun. This is going to be fun, not this is going to be love and this is going to mean the world and all my answers are going to be had here. Let's see if I can maybe not spill my drinks like I did last stream. Feral Android says, just the act of trying to find a woman that doesn't mind that you work part-time is expensive. Guess I don't see how you could do it unless you just wait for her. In answer to that, Feral, in terms of money, well, you find out pretty quickly through conversations, even before a date. But just say you go on a date and you suggest, let's go for a coffee. A coffee costs like a couple of bucks, and especially if you say you pose it in a way where, look, no pressure. Say you discuss before the date, like, who you are, and you start discussing points of view and say, look, let's catch up for a coffee. No pressure. You don't have to worry about, should you pay, should I pay? Let's just catch up as friends and see where this goes. Let's just each pay for each other's coffee. No pressure. I don't know how you want to coach it, but say you do pay, go on a date, go on a coffee date. Don't take her out to dinner. Or if she insists on dinner and she's always wanting to go to dinner and she doesn't actually sympathize that you work part-time. So be open. You say, I only work part-time. I'm not a rich guy. You don't apologize for it. Say, I got a very simple lifestyle. I don't spend a lot. I've got a very simple life. I like being at home, going out for breakfast, whatever it might be. And if she can't actually sympathize and realize that, okay, I like this guy and I'm not going to insist that he gets a job or pays for dinner because part of them seeing you and understanding you is being able to sympathize with your point of view. You don't go on a date discounting who she is and just getting what you want. The other person, if they've got half a brain, realizes that they're not really there. So even if you don't have a lot of money, if you're working part-time, Feral, I would say go on coffee dates, go on dates during the day where you just walk and talk and you want to get to know the person, because if that's how you're dating, the kind of women that you will want to talk to and want to go on dates with, and they will want to go on dates with you, they're not that materialistic. Yes, 95% of women out there are. I know it's hard, but you don't want them. So I don't think it's much of a barrier, because what's the point of faking being in a crappy job or earning money when you really don't want to, and you want a woman that's not materialistic, but you've got a lot of material? There's a lot of game playing, both with you and them. So I think you can still do it. The pool of women is very low. And again, do you want the materialistic bimbos? You don't. They're good for one night, but you can fake that if you want. I wouldn't suggest doing it. If you just want to hook up, just say you're a millionaire. Take them out for one dinner. Well, I'm not saying do it, but what's the point, you know? Gigadolf says, doesn't like my questions. I answered your question, Gigadolf. It's just that I'm answering other questions, and by the time I get to them, and if people don't put 3 circles at least before their questions, I can't tell their questions. Humble Boy says, how do you advise my friends against toxic relationships they are in with their girlfriends when coming across as wanting to break their relationship? Learn to speak better, and your friends will understand you if you are talking to them honestly. If you're rude, that's different. But you should be able to communicate with your friend when you're trying to be sympathetic, and your friend shouldn't be able to understand you. Otherwise, they're not a friend. Roland says, is it any good to stay friends with your ex? I would say no. That's me. I can't see the point. I don't know. Theoretically, if you were friends or you met and you got along and you quickly broke it off because you were incompatible relationship-wise, but you really enjoyed each other as people, but not as relationship material, maybe, if you very quickly realized it. But if you had a relationship and then after it you still want to retain them for some reason, I think it's painful seeing them with someone else, because you're always given flashbacks of the past, like this was the person I was holding hands with. Your brain and your emotion plays tricks on you. Some people can do it. Good luck to them. I don't know how they can do it. Some people with kids, they have to do it. I suppose there's more of a necessity there. Should you? No. Is it any good to stay friends with your ex? If you can see value there, I can't. Some would argue, if you're going to be friends with them, why didn't the relationship work? If the friend quality's there, why didn't, like, if you found them, unless one of the people forced the other person into a relationship. But I can't see any reason why you wouldn't continue a relationship, because the friend qualities with someone are the most important things that would actually cement a relationship for me. And if when the friend qualities deteriorate or weren't there, then there's no point in me being with him. I may as well just hook up with versions of her. She's just a body. If she's not a friend, she's just a body. That's the way I see it, if you want to be binary. Crummy BCR says, every day I have to put on an act for other people, though I am single. I wonder how often many men are in love with Pumpkin really are, and who is repeating the script. Yeah. You're lonely, so you want to be in love. You like to be in love. You're tired of being on your own. You want a companion. And so you act in a way that there's some truth in act, live the life, exude the virtues, speak and act the way you want to have your life end up, right? Be the person you want to be, but don't act falsely. Like, develop your vocabulary and start living life. Have the courage to live it the way you want to live it, but not as someone else. Don't just walk and quack like a duck where you don't like being a duck. Don't use walking and quacking like a duck to get to the point where you think you can not be a duck. Or it's like, no, you got to stay a duck. So be your own animal. Feral Android says, actually, I have plenty of money. I just don't want a woman to like me for that, if that is possible. I get it. I would just always avoid money, downplay your money. I used to do that when I was very young, when I was living at home. My father had like a normal car, like a normal family car, like a Ford or something, but just like a middle of the road, decent family car that he could afford on a normal salary, a working class guy's salary, and he was the only one providing money for the house. Like, he was the breadwinner. And I thought the family car was a really luxurious car, and it was. And my father had his really beaten up $1,000 project van. It was embarrassing to sort of like in terms of the other car. But it was so much fun. I love that van, that old broken down van. It was a lot of fun to drive. And I would intentionally go on dates when I was still living at home, because even at that point, like, I had a problem with women really expecting, like, really wanting guys via money, wanting me via what they saw, like, you know, the jacket I wore, like my window dressing. Like, it's like, no, I'm talking here. In the same way women say, like, when you're looking at their boobs, it's like, no, my face is up here. I am here. I'm talking. I'm present here. My boobs aren't me, right? Which, your boobs are more you than my car is me, sweetheart. But anyway, I used to take my dad's beaten up van to make sure that if they were judging me on the van, if they were like, nah, you're nice, but, or for whatever reason, to make it all about me. I didn't want them distracted by anything else. So how I dressed, I didn't turn up in a suit. And yeah, look, I was overcompensating. My sister used to say, don't turn up in the van. Don't turn up in the van. That was the joke. You're always turning up in the van. Whenever I used to have problems with relationship, is that you had this thing about money, like all women are gold diggers. It's like, well, I want her to like me for me. So I would say, I don't think there's anything wrong, but you don't want to have it as your Achilles heel. I think initially, on the first date, because you don't know someone, like before you decide to commit to someone, I think that sort of superficial stuff that has nothing to do with who you are, if you want them to like the important things that are that you consider virtues, I don't think there's anything wrong with just not sharing other parts of your life, because other people fictionalize or blow out of proportion what you have or the potential of what you can have. And it's distracting. So you want the least bit of distraction on the first couple of dates. So I would say coffee dates, walk, talk dates. You got women that say if a guy wants a walking and talking coffee dates, it's a no. Well, yeah, great. F off. Go for the guys you want to go for. I don't care. I'd like to find out if I'm compatible with someone. It's just as dumb as saying, well, you know, if a chick doesn't dress in a miniskirt and have, you know, triple Ds, and she doesn't look like a stripper version of Angelina Jolie, then, you know, it's a hard no. Sorry. Yeah, good on you, macho man. Good luck with all the options you'll have out there to choose from as well. So you get what your standards are too, realistically so. Christopher says, you missed my question above human. Did I? Did you put 3 circles in front of it? Where? Come on, where? How far above? Can you state it again, please, if I did? August Line says, spilling the coffee should be human signature sign-off. Well, if I had a different setup in a room, if like I had nothing behind here, or well, I probably could that, but how would you know? I could just maybe just do this and go, oh my God. Actually, that's what I can do. I can actually make it happen. I can. And if I remember, I'll try and make it happen next time. I'll write myself a note. I know exactly how I can make it happen. Without continually ruining my desk, because my thing is, I don't want to continually have to clean up an authentic mess by cleaning up coffee. Do I really want to do it as a shtick, though? Come on. And after a couple of times, it'll be like, yeah, it's getting old, human. Anyway, guys, any last questions? Let's wrap it up. Put 3 brightly orange or yellow emojis, circles, stars, squares, before your question if you want to ask me any questions, or super chat me. And I'll see it in the live stream if you're here. in real time. Sean says, once the Sierra Echo, once the SEX starts in a relationship, the entire parameters change. Yes, but you should at least try looking for compatibility before that, because then everything changes. It's almost like you've leapfrogged step 1 to step 10, and then you're taking step 11 and 12 and whatever. So you've missed those important steps that you should have sort of gauged. Having a physical connection before a compatible personality character connection, I think, is very dangerous, especially today, especially with the laws, especially with women's attitude. Like, women don't even like men. What do you think the risk reward factor? What do you think the stats on that are? Let's just hook up and bang random chicks that hate all men. Yeah, the fantasy is to hate, is to sort of, hate bang women, but it's very, very dangerous. Some of these questions, guys, I don't really know enough about them. Srivat says he wants me to talk about how appalling Indian arranged marriages are, and how the courts ordered them to pay the wife and blah, blah, blah. That's a cultural thing that I'm not really, I don't talk too much about sort of politics and all that stuff. Mostly I talk from a general pedestrian experience of like guys and girls trying to date, especially in the West. In those cultures, I really don't know. I'm only speculating. I can imagine. Metalhead Mike, what's the best cure for a hangover? Another drink? I don't know. Isn't that like some greasy burger or something? It's supposed to be like some greasy, like kebab, burger, eggs, things like that. Will Adam says, why not use the at name to make a highlighted comment that's directed at you? As in, like, I comment on that at the bottom as well, but then I see it again, don't I? When I scroll down the page, and I don't know if I've answered it. It's too, like, the stream, the feed is moving, and I'm trying to sort of just scroll down and answer them as questions rather than typing them. All right, guys, if there's no final questions, I think that's about it. Let's wrap it up. I think we've been going for long enough. Saturday night for most of you, and Sunday morning for us here in Australia. Have a good weekend. Leave your comments below. Jump on Discord if you guys want to continue this chat, if you've got a microphone. And like, subscribe, join the channel, keep interacting, and please share and link my videos around on your social media. Share them with someone you think it might help. And yeah, I will see you in the next video, guys. Have a good weekend, and bye.